This is a Gear Network production. Coming to you live from Greece, New York, from the Gear Network studios, this is Talking Wrestling. Here is your host, JC Money. And good day to you, everybody. Welcome to Talking Wrestling with JC Money here on the Gear Radio Network. And this week we are sponsored by, we have two sponsors. We are first sponsored by the Gear Network's Amazon page. Visit us, gearnetwork.com/Amazon. And you can buy a whole bunch of things, including that new Paul Heyman DVD. Guess what? I'm going to be buying it. You should buy it from there. It'll be awesome. And we are also sponsored by UPW and Headlocks and Homeruns 3. That is this Saturday at 5 p.m. from Perry Village Park in Perry, New York. Scheduled to appear Scott Steiner, Tommy Dreamer, Danny Doring, Shark Boy, Balls Mahoney, Kurt Hawkins, and a surprise guest. We also have here, live, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Marc's Minute is going long this week.
Woo! I'm here in studio.
That's right. Marc Hauss is here, ladies and gentlemen. Flying co-pilot here. Welcome back again, man.
The lavishness, living the life here.
Oh, yeah.
Whining and dining.
Yeah, whining and dining. I got crap all over the place and cat puke right over there because my cat just, I'm lazy.
It adds a nice aura to this place.
It's something like that. Well, that and I farted too, so that doesn't really help much. But all right, on today's show, I was going to talk about WWE, but folks, I'm not going to lie, this is the third week in a row and this is Talking Wrestling, and I have been very, very horrible with watching my wrestling, so I apologize. I'm going to catch up on the Hulu, because I'm on that gimmick now. Yep. I got the Hulu Plus now. But the big news that everybody's talking about is not really anything out of the WWE. It has been total nonstop action wrestling, a place I never talk about on this show, because quite honestly, I haven't watched TNA Wrestling in probably about 5 years. But Spike TV reportedly has canceled TNA Impact Wrestling effective October, which would begin their new season or whatever that case is. And a lot of people are questioning whether or not that is going to be the end of total nonstop action wrestling. You know, you talk about a promotion that, started, I'd say a little over 10 years ago at this point, from the Jarretts. They ran pay-per-views weekly and kind of built up that way, and then as they progressed, they went to Fox Sports Net, the original Fox Sports Net, which is now Fox Sports 1 or whatever it is. Went from there to Spike TV, where they've been ever since WWE left there. So, Marc Hauss, I guess let's start talking about that. Now, there's no new deal for Impact Wrestling. What does that mean?
Not at the moment. I mean, all that really means is, first off, you see all this stuff, and it really, really bothers me when you watch everybody just congratulate it. People who love wrestling congratulating TNA going down the tubes and closing the doors possibly and losing their sponsorship with TV. And it's a shame, because we all love wrestling, and if you take away one market and one show, that's just one less outlet we can watch and one less outlet for people to build up the ranks to go to. And it just boggles my mind that wrestling fans itself would just bury something like that.
It doesn't necessarily surprise me that wrestling fans would do this, especially, the quote-unquote, using Carney terms here, the supermarks would, because they feel that they are entitled to say that, because they are the paying fans. And I guess it's true to some extent, but quoting TMZ, this is actually broke from TMZ, regardless of what WrestleZone.com says, though I am reading it off of WrestleZone, so there's your plug. TNA, I almost said TNX, whoa, there's your plug too there, Tiger. TNA Wrestling's flagship show, Impact Wrestling, could soon be without a home. Spike TV quietly let the league know it is not renewing their TV contract. Multiple sources with direct knowledge of the deal tell us that Spike executives contacted TNA President Dixie Carter this week to break the news, and the following day, Carter informed members of her inner circle. TNA's current deal with Spike reportedly runs through October. It is unclear at this point when Impact Wrestling will stop airing on Spike. I'm going to guess very likely a week or two before that, if WCW Thunder was any indication. So, yes, it's not to the same degree that the WCW was when WCW folded. I've always thought that TNA was a glorified independent wrestling federation. I never legitimately thought of them as a number two because of the plain and simple fact that their own, they had their ideas, their Ultimate X match, the X Division, the six-sided ring. That, those were things that they were that kept them apart, that gave them their own identity.
Yep.
But a lot of the times, and that was one of the main reasons I stopped watching Impact, was because they were constantly trying to build themselves up and compete on WWE, or make it seem as if they are competing with WWE, and at times it seemed that they were more focused on WWE than they were their own product.
It's kind of like repeating history. You always read all the books and you listen to all the documentaries of. A lot of people thought that with Eric Bischoff and WCW, when they were hot, they were doing everything they could to bury WWE instead of actually just worrying about their own product. And I feel a lot of times TNA tries to keep up with the Joneses, and you don't have a media juggernaut, and you don't have something that's been established for such a long time that have gone through the peaks and valleys. You have to go in a different direction. I mean, you look at someone like Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor has its own niche market, and some people consider it a super indie, but they've been doing a really good job. Like, they had a pay-per-view recently, and they needed, from what I heard, they needed 10,000 or 1,000 buys to break even, and they made it because they're catering to a certain market, but they're doing it in a way that's they're not trying to keep up with WWE. They're not trying to copy them. They have their own storylines, their own direction, their own style. And I think TNA had their own style for a little while. And then when they started to try to compete and they tried to go to, remember they did Monday nights and that failed miserably. And they tried to bring in the old WWE guys to get interest. The times that people enjoyed TNA the most so far, from what I've heard and from my own personal experience, is the times when they had the homegrown talent, when AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were newer and hot, and the X Division was good, and then they had Christopher Daniels and all that, and they were using those guys as their homegrown talent. When they started bringing in the older guys,
right, absolutely,
it started to mimic WWE.
I'm not necessarily saying that, that particular era when they had, when they brought in, like, Christian and they brought in Kurt Angle, like, those were good moves for them because,
of course.
Angle was a big coup because of his, departure from WWE, and Christian was one of those underutilized talents that, was brought there. But then you started getting the Hogans and the Bischoffs and the Flairs, and next thing you know, Hogan's wrestling Sting, and,
Well, then you look at it, too, you get, it's nothing against these guys because I like them all, but then you bring in, like, D'Lo Brown gets used on TV, then you got Ken Kennedy, and then you bring the ECW guys back in for an ECW reunion show after WWE had done it for a couple of years and brought back the company, and then you just recycle things instead of going in your own direction. And
I think the thing that I didn't like the most, that I was really very critical on. And I love wrestling, to your point from earlier. I love wrestling, but I was very, very critical on, imagine that, critical on TNA was when the New Age Outlaws were there, and they were known as the Voodoo Kin Mafia, I think was their name. They were calling out Triple H and Shawn Michaels by their real names. That was like their story. They were trying to, play up on their old DX thing or whatever.
Is give a cheap plug to WWE so people go, oh, who's this? And go over there and watch it.
Well, not only so much that, but it was punctuated by the end of the broadcast where the VKM was in, which was Vince McMahon, which is Vince McMahon's initials, by the way. The VKM was in Stamford, Connecticut, and they were headed to Titan Towers. And the very last scene of TNA was of Road Dogg and Billy Gunn with a camera in their hand looking at Titan Tower, and they zoomed in and showed the WWE logo on there to close out TNA Wrestling. I mean, that right there, once I saw that, to me, that was kind of it. With my giving them a chance. And it's kind of like NASCAR, NASCAR and soccer I give a chance once a year, and every year I'm disappointed with NASCAR and disappointed with soccer. I don't really care about either of them. I did the same thing with TNA up until about 3 or 4 years ago, whenever the Monday night thing happened, and Hogan was like, oh, and we're going to compete with the WWE, brother, And
my biggest problem with it was I love a lot of the talent on there. But they're just used in such an awkward manner that when you try to watch it, sometimes it's just uncomfortably bad.
Yeah, and they have a lot of good talent, great talent there. I mean, some of their homegrown talent, like Beer Money, for example.
Oh, my God.
Bobby Roode and the Cowboy, James Storm. I liked it. I liked that team. That was a good team. And even when the Dudleys went there and they were feuding, that was a good, those were good matches.
Even now, you got Bubba Ray, who's doing the whole Bully Ray thing, and he's slimmed down and got in shape, and he's probably one of the best heels around, and it's tough watching him be put into just hard to watch segments that he has to try to salvage.
I agree, and I guess they reunited the Dudleys, like not, I mean, obviously at 2CW, but
no, they reunited them
TNA too.
They were making one, from what I've heard and what I've seen, they were trying to make one last ditch effort to show Spike TV that they were, all in. So they went to New York City and rented out the Hammerstein Ballroom, which was very expensive. They just upped the price of it again.
That's what I heard,
ran the 6-sided ring again, brought Jeff Hardy back as Jeff Hardy, brought in all these ex-WWE guys. They brought in Ezekiel Jackson and Snitsky to be bodyguard guys, and then they brought the Dudleys back together and brought Rhino and Tommy Dreamer. They tried to even do something with... There was a thing a couple months ago where Bully Ray was pulled from a House of Hardcore show and caused this huge thing about how Tommy Dreamer was calling out Dixie Carter. And Dixie Carter went and used it as a medium to publicly allow him on the show, which caused a storyline, which is still continuing on now. But they were doing everything they could that would try to spark any interest, and it just hasn't moved the dial at all.
Indeed. So, taking a look here, there's going to be news about this coming, ad nauseum between now and the time Spike actually removes it from its programming lineup. Reading here on the WrestleZone site that Jim Ross noted he has had discussions about having Dixie Carter on his podcast in the future, which would be something I would be interested in hearing, because all you hear, you hear often that Dixie Carter is a money mark. She doesn't know the business, she's clueless, and all that stuff. I would be interested in listening to that podcast just to hear her side of the story, because she's been pretty quiet and in a business and an avenue that is very hard to be quiet in. Yeah, the criticism she's taking.
Well, business being hard to be quiet, and you hear the biggest thing that has been going around is the biggest reason why Spike TV doesn't want to renew them is because when they let go of Vince Russo a couple of years ago, they didn't want him to be a part of it because of the headache, because they blamed him for WCW and whatnot. And this whole entire time, Vince Russo has been consulting with them behind the scenes and not telling anybody, and it finally came to surface. And then TNA was like, "Oh, you're still working with him?" And now they've officially let him go.
Yes, I was just about to say that, because I just saw that right here, is that they suggested he took a break, according to Russo's Twitter. They suggested he took a break, and he was like, "Yeah, no thanks."
You know what's really interesting about it, though, is that if you really think about it, if you look at and the other things, and there's been so many wild speculations, but some of them do kind of make some sense, and they have some merit. If you really think about it, they were drawing, even though it wasn't a lot, they were still drawing a little under to a little over 1 million people a week. And this is for Spike TV. There's not many other shows on there that draw that much in terms of ratings.
Right.
If there is, it's not... What are they going to replace it with? Right now they've been talking about, because they had a good relationship with Jeff Jarrett, about having Global Force Wrestling replace it or have something else replace it. But it's interesting to think, like, they must have been real sour on them that negotiations really aren't going to work if they're going to try to drop something that is drawing 1 million a week for a TV station that primarily doesn't get a lot of traffic.
Absolutely. I almost wonder how a place like Ring of Honor would do on Spike TV.
Now, Spike is a facelift. I think that'd be great.
Spike is not a part of the Sinclair Broadcasting Group, which owns... or at least to my knowledge, I can double check that. But Sinclair, I guess, is partnered with Ring of Honor. If they don't own part of it,
they own it. Yeah.
They do own it. Okay, so but I don't think Spike TV is Sinclair. But
No.
if Spike TV or something like that, if they could get on syndication, if they could get on FX or Fox Sports 1 or FX or something like that,
it would be a great fit for them, because Spike TV bases itself around MMA. And
they still do Bellator.
And the thing is, you have Ring of Honor, which is a stronger style, more legit, comes across as more of a fight and less of entertainment.
Right. I would really like to. I would love to see that. I would, I'm a fan of Ring of Honor. When I had DirecTV, yeah, that's right, DirecTV, I dropped you. But when I had DirecTV, I recorded the Ring of Honor.
You just watch it on the website
things
every week.
Oh, you can. All right.
You can watch it every week. The day after, I watch it on the internet.
There was a few times I watched it when before I got back in, before I got back into the podcasting, before I actually appeared in front of camera. I would say I think it might have actually been when I was just getting my motion back in my arm after my surgery. And I was watching Ring of Honor, and I was seeing some of these moves from some of these people, and God help me, I cannot... who?
It's amazing.
Yeah. I was seeing some of these moves, and I'm like, damn, I could do that. And then I lifted my arm, and I'll be like, no, wait, no, I can't right now. But, if I do get back in the ring, in the ring, I got some moves, and I'm stealing from Ring of Honor.
And the thing is, it's good, though, with Ring of Honor, I mean, going off topic from TNA, but just... They've been doing their due diligence of taking the steps further, going to iPay-per-view, working with New Japan. I mean, even something as small as, I know might not seem like a big deal for bigger companies, but their entranceway is completely different. They used to come out with just this regular silver fabric, and now they have a nice big screen TV, huge big screen TV with metal. Mm-hmm. I mean, and just the way it's run, I mean, I would know from experience. I've been there, and it's nice.
Well, it's all about, presentation as well, and, I mean...
And they treat their fans right, too.
Exactly, they do. And, it's like, look at UFC. Here we go. We went from TNA to Ring of Honor, now we're talking UFC. I mean, before the Zuffa company, or Zoffa company, or whatever Dana White runs, bought that, I mean, it was like a, Hicktown type arena. I mean, I have UFC 1 on DVD, and I watch that from time to time because it's so funny to watch. And then I just watched it on Fox the other day, and it's different. It's kind of got
production.
It's production, yeah, absolutely.
Same product, just packaged differently.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as a wrestling fan, as a guy who involves himself in the business, I don't want to see TNA fold, or without the knowledge of knowing that something else is going to be available for people. I mean, yes, Global Force Wrestling is talked about, Ring of Honor is talked about, but still, you know what I mean? People losing their jobs and one less place to work for people.
Well, it's hard too, because like someone like myself who's really trying to scratch and claw to get up the ladder, TNA folds. You got 50 guys that have been to the top, or were on top, or had gone places and have that much more experience that are now going to go back to the indies, that all they have to do is snap their fingers and they get the spot, and it's going to be harder for people like me. And then, but I mean, I guess the only good thing about that though is if they do fold, all those guys go back in the indie market, all the watch my language here, all the
I have F7, I press it edits.
All the balls will get out of wrestling, because then they won't have a place to go, because people are going to go, well, I can use these guys from TNA, or I can use the guys with sweatpants.
Well, certain places might not, but
the place eventually will die.
Okay, well, that's non-local talk for you here. We're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial real quick and air this wonderful Headlocks and Home Runs commercial here. When we come back, we will talk about Headlocks and Home Runs, and actually a story that I am reading right now on a participant that will be at Headlocks and Home Runs. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is Talking Wrestling with JC Money Marc Hauss here on the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to Talking Wrestling on the Gear Radio Network.
Upstate Pro Wrestling presents Headlocks and Home Runs 3, live Saturday, August 2nd from Perry, New York, on the Perry Fireman Grounds in Perry Park. See your favorite UPW stars tangle with some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. Gabreal Saint taking on Shark Boy. Colin Delaney and Trent Beretta take on the Flex Express. Captain Nick Gando takes on Balls Mahoney. Ron Falco against Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. Cloudy issues an open challenge. Kurt Hawkins takes on Marc Hauss. The Headlocks and Home Runs Royal Rumble. A steel cage tag team match, Rochester Wrecking Crew versus Tommy Dreamer and Danny Doring. The wrestling show is from 5 to 8 p.m. There's a meet and greet at 8 to 9, and an after party right at the Fireman's Ground from 8 to 11 p.m. Be there! Looking for us on social networking? Look no further. Twitter, Gear Network. Instagram, Gear Network. We are not just posting pictures of food and selfies, by the way. It's actually good stuff on Instagram. Facebook.com/Gear Network. iHeartRadio, search Gear Network. Spreaker.com/Gear Network. And, of course, GearNetwork.com.
from the Gear Network studios, once again, JC Money.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Talking Wrestling with JC Money and Marc Hauss here with us this week on this very big week. We've had a real home run hitting week, week after week here these past 3 weeks. And speaking of which, this segment here is Local Shine. It is sponsored by UPW's Headlocks and Home Runs 3, coming Saturday, August 2nd, from the Perry Village Park, Perry, New York, 14530. You heard the damn commercial. Go get you a ticket. It's going to be a star-studded show. Scott Steiner, Tommy Dreamer, Danny Doring, Shark Boy, Balls Mahoney, Kurt Hawkins, a.k.a. Brian
Myers.
Brian Myers. That's funny because I'm reading as I was reading in the last thing about TNA Wrestling with Dixie Carter. There's a story here. It says former star speaks out. There was a story published in WWE.com about The Rock's second coming.
Yep. And
it has a picture of him and Curtis Axel, but what they omitted was Kurt Hawkins. He was and I do remember this story from years back, where Kurt Hawkins was one of the guys that The Rock trained. And a matter of fact, I think he joked, either it was on some sort of podcast, maybe it was his Twitter or something. He joked that he thinks that's the reason why he's still around is because he trained The Rock. But it says here, Brian Myers, better known in the wrestling world as former WWE star Kurt Hawkins, took to Twitter to talk about his displeasure that his name was not included in a WWE story about The Rock, who made his return. And he had a few things, nothing derogatory or anything like that, but just saying that, it's missing some details. So, you get to see him, though. You get to see why The Rock trained, he trained with The Rock, why The Rock specifically asked for him at Headlocks and Home Runs 3. So, I hand it off to you. He is the guy that you are going to be facing, Mark. So, what do you got? I mean, what's your game plan?
I've been training hard and I've been studying tape. But what makes me laugh is all these guys that come down from the Fed or come down from TNA or Ring of Honor that get let go, Future Endeavor, whatever the reason is. Mm-hmm. And they think that they can be like Chris Hero or AJ Styles and just walk back into the indies, make all the money, take all the merch, get all the spots, mm-hmm. and that all of us are just going to roll over and die. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to work like that. And I appreciate UPW giving me the opportunity to wrestle Brian Myers or Kurt Hawkins or however he wants to be called. But it's going to be funny when he walks in just expecting an easy payday and, a quick match,
and he's going to run into you.
He's going to run into me, and I'm just not taking crap from people anymore. I'm
done. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yes, Brian Myers against Marc Hauss. There's also going to be an open challenge from now former UPW champion and your partner, Cloudy.
Yeah, one part of the Mountain Lions. I didn't particularly care for what Coconut Jones decided he wanted to do to win that title. Cloudy will get it back. And then when he gets it back, we'll hold all the gold.
Mm-hmm. Now, I had Dewey on the program last week.
Yep.
And it was a very good interview. Which, by the way, Dewey, I could share some numbers with you, but you're up there in triple digits as far as amount of listens. So nice. Good job to you, Dewey. But Dewey mentioned that he was going to be in the Headlocks and Home Runs Rumble. And there's a Headlocks and Home Runs Championship. Is that what I heard?
Yep. What it is that we have it yearly now with Headlocks and Home Runs. It's not something that was a one-off. Now we're making it a yearly thing, and mm-hmm. There is a championship strictly for that. It's kind of, I don't know. I guess the best I can describe it is now with this year's WrestleMania, the Andre the Giant Memorial.
Okay.
Kind of like that. Just
that makes sense.
The featured match for Headlocks and Home Runs, and you win the title and you get to hold it for the year and claim that you're the best one at Headlocks and Home Runs. And it's not, and it's good though because you have Battle Royal spots and all shows, and a lot of times they're just for the sake of having a Battle Royal. And for this, there actually is some prestige to it, because I know last year they did last 6 guys, 6-man scramble. I know as far as I know this year it's either going to be a 6-man or a 4-way, but it's going to be a rumble down to 4 or 6 guys, and then it's going to be for the championship that currently Maximo Suave holds. But I mean, whoever wins it gets bragging rights for headlocks and home runs for an entire year.
That's pretty cool. It's almost kind of like Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy or Super Bowl trophy for all you sports listeners here. All right, very good. Steel cage tag team match: Rochester Wrecking Crew, Hellcat, and Rob Sweet against the very established extreme tandem, if you will, of Tommy Dreamer and Danny Doring. Now, Danny Doring is a Rochester Wrestling Hall of Famer, has been a UW, holy crap. I hope not.
He's not been a UW.
No, UPW, that's a big difference. What a difference.
Professional.
Yes, there we go. Hey-o! He's been a UPW mainstay for a while. Dreamer's been there a few shows, and of course you got Hellcat and Sweet, who, Hellcat's had a bit of a resurgence as far as his career is concerned with this tag team. I mean, they're all over.
Yep. Well, actually, this is match number 2. Last year they wrestled. Mm-hmm. They didn't wrestle in the cage; just wrestled a hardcore match. So this year we're just going to have it inside the cage and see what more nonsense and shenanigans they can pull off.
Mm-hmm. All right. Also, another match here of interest: Ron Falco against Scott Steiner. That's a lot of muscle in that match.
That's a lot of head.
Oh man!
Just kidding.
he might not be, but anyway. So Ron Falco, Scott Steiner. Who do you got? The Steiner recliner or the Falco? I don't know what the hell he does.
You can't go against the big bad booty daddy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ron.
Right.
You gotta go with Scott Steiner.
All right, he's gonna go with Scott Steiner. Ron Santo, you know you're my boy. I'll back you on this one. I'll lose that bet, I'm sure, but I've got your back, buddy. Your captain, Nick Ando, against Balls Mahoney. Nick Ando is your partner. Yes. UPW Tag Team Champion, right?
Yes, sir.
Who you got there? It's a stupid question, I'm sure, but who you got?
A stupid question, yeah. See, what I want to see is everybody wants to see Nick Ando, our captain, get hit in the head with a chair. Mm-hmm. Not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't.
He's got Cloudy, he's got myself, and Balls might have other ECW originals on the card. I don't know how quickly they'll come out and help him. So I'm going to go with Nick Ando because he's my captain. My tag team partner, UPW Tag Team Champion.
He's your captain. He's a captain to all. He is your captain, Nick Ando. Our captain. Oh, captain, my captain, Nick Ando, ladies and gentlemen. Moving up the card here, the Flex Express, Muscle Marcos and Dumbbell Dunn. First of all, Kevin Dunn, goddamn, dude, how many retirements you going to come out? You are like the Terry Funk of this area, and you're younger than me. I'm just saying. He said he's been. We joked with him on Facebook about being in the retirement home, the Western New York Wrestling Retirement Home, and I've had to constantly rent his room out because his room is next to mine, and I'm always constantly renting his room out because he's going back and winning titles and crap. And then what was it? A few months ago, he's like, "Don't worry, I'm coming back soon. Don't worry, I'll be back in my room in the retirement home." And here he is. He's going to be going against Colin Delaney and. Well, I would say originally it was Trent Beretta, but we just got wind that Trent Beretta suffered a knee injury. So Colin Delaney and I guess right now a mystery partner. I don't know what's going on there.
Actually,
or did they announce?
It was announced.
Oh, it was?
It was announced, so it looks like here that who's going to be taking his place is Pepper Parks.
Pepper Parks. Okay, so Pepper Parks, or for you Pier 6 guys, for some reason it was Preston Wyatt Parks, but Pepper Parks. And Colin Delaney against the Flex Express. That's actually going to be a really good match. But, all right. And then...
Who are you going with that one, though?
Who am I going with? Well, I'll tell you what. I've been in the ring with everybody except for Pepper Parks. I've beaten everybody except for Pepper Parks there because I haven't been in the ring with him. I'm not going to go... You can never really go against Colin. He's got that underdog thing. He's always been the underdog. But then again, having been in the ring and trained with Marcos and Dunn and literally having the crap kicked out of me for 7 years by Kevin Dunn, I'm going to have to, I'm throwing it out there, the Flex Express, I'm putting it, that's JC's bet. Flex Express.
I totally agree with you. You got to go with who has continuity. I don't know if, I know separately Colin and Pepper are two of the best, but together I don't think I've ever seen them work. So you might have that continuity issue there as compared to the Flex Express that's been together more than they've been apart.
Yeah, they've been together more than they've been apart. They've, listen, Kevin Dunn has got some of the hardest chops I've ever taken. He chopped me so hard, and this is no lie. He chopped me so hard, there's a piece of my chest is gone.
Yeah?
He chopped it so hard. And, I showed him when he worked the NEW show, his first NEW show. I said, you see this? You see this? This is you. And he's like, oh my God. He felt horrible. And I'm like, no, don't feel bad, man. It's, fully lost the ear. I just lost a piece of, whatever.
Lost some chest.
Yeah, I lost some chest. It's okay.
Got a bunch more.
Just grow some hair there and cover it, Manscaped, whatever. Finally, we have, or at least listed here, Gabreal Saint, who, by the way, will be our guest in the interview segment in segment 3. Gabreal Saint against Shark Boy. I've known Gabreal Saint longer than everybody in wrestling here. We used to go to school together. We roomed together. We trained together. It was so. Sure, Shark Boy, you're established and all that. I'm not going against Saint on this one. I'm not. I'm sorry. I've known Gabe Saint for years. Like I said, man, we used to ride some serious roads together, and I'm not gonna front. Shark Boy, I'm sorry. I appreciate what you did, what you've done. I respect what you're building, but I'm sorry. Gabe Saint's my guy. I'm going with him.
It's got to go with Gabe Saint. Gabe Saint is the most intense, athletic person ever with the meanest right hook. And then you got Shark Boy, and Shark Boy's amazing and wonderful with the kids and wonderful with the crowd, but he's more fun-loving and just wants to go out there and entertain, and Gabe Saint just wants to kill.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, too, one more thing I would like to note, there is a surprise superstar, and contrary to popular belief, and by popular I mean completely, I'm just making this up right now, it's not me.
I really hope it's Mantar.
Oh, God, if it's Mantar. Are you kidding me? Mantar, is he still around? You know what I want? I wouldn't mind. Who's that magician guy? Phantasmo.
He just did something with PWS, I think.
Get out of here. Ago. Seriously?
Yeah. What they do is PWS finds all the guys that are awesomely bad and contacts them and brings them around.
Oh, that's
I think Larry Johnson,
that's tremendous.
The basketball player, is going to be on one of their shows soon.
That's amazing. All right. Well, let's go ahead. We're going to cut to a commercial break here, and when we come back, we will have Gabreal Saint, the man who's taking on Shark Boy at Headlocks and Homeruns 3. This Saturday, we will have him on the line. This is Talking Wrestling with JC Money and Marc Hauss here on the Gear Radio Network, presented by UPW Headlocks and Homeruns 3.
You're listening to Talking Wrestling and the Gear Radio Network. Good night now.
A successful product does not become a successful product on its own. Look at the Gear Radio Network, for example. We're a prime example. We had a lot of help getting here, and we can help you get where you want to go to. Advertising rates are very low to start off here on the Gear Radio Network. Visit us at gearnetwork.com. Click on the contact link to send us an email, and we can work out the details. Again, advertise your product across all of the forums at a low rate here on the Gear Radio Network.
Sports news and fun. This is the Gear Radio Network.
Upstate Pro Wrestling presents Headlocks and Homeruns 3, live Saturday, August 2nd from Perry, New York, on the Perry Fireman Grounds in Perry Park. See your favorite UPW stars tangle with some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. Gabreal Saint taking on Shark Boy. Colin Delaney and Trent Beretta take on the Flex Express. Captain Nick Gando takes on Balls Mahoney. Ron Falco against Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. Cloudy issues an open challenge. Kurt Hawkins takes on Marc Hauss. The Headlocks and Homeruns Royal Rumble. A steel cage tag team match, Rochester Wrecking Crew versus Tommy Dreamer and Danny Doring. The wrestling show is from 5 to 8 p.m. There's a meet and greet at 8 to 9, and an after party right at the Fireman's Ground from 8 to 11 p.m. Be there! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Talking Wrestling with JC Money here on the Gear Radio Network. And not only am I joined by Marc Hauss here in studio. Say hello again, Marc.
What up?
But I am joined on the line, ladies and gentlemen, by the man, the myth, the guy who has really the heart and soul, if you will, of UPW. He's going to be taking on Shark Boy this coming Saturday in Perry, Headlocks and Homeruns 3. Get there. Big show. Gabreal Saint, the Bull of Black Mountain, joins me. Gabe, what is up, my friend?
What's up, bro? I got a lot of monikers. Bull Black Mountain, Cape Fear Colossus, the man who can't be stopped. Whatever you like to call me. Just call me champion.
Call you champion. All right, we will do that. Not champion, not like Mike Champion, but champion. All right. So, all right, Gabe, for those that may not know who you are, and that's got to be like, at this point, maybe like all of about, 1.5 people, and they aren't even born yet. You got to know who Gabe Saint is if you're in this area. So, but for those that may not know who you are, would you mind providing just a brief history on you, how you got started, what got you, what got you involved in wrestling, and who trained you?
The training part is going to be the hard part of the answer. Basically, I moved back here in, I want to say, 96, and I met up with Tiger Smith, if you will. I don't want to say his real name, but Tiger knows who he is. I met up with Tiger Smith, and he was doing some training at NMW, where I also met Mr. Money, and I started training there. At first with Gary Steinmiller, but it wasn't really training. He was just taking my money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh, God, what a freaking joke.
My trainers at the time were H.C. Lowe trained me for 3 days. Barry Hardy trained me for a week. Who else trained me? Canadian Thriller trained me for a half an hour. But my real training really broke down to Mike Rosario. I saw something in Mike Rosario during the NMW days that I was really into. Me and him both had a similar style. Even to this day, we're both loud, boisterous strikers. Little guys who know how to bang and don't really have to lift guys.
Right.
So when he started his flagship company, I went from the RCWs and wrestling with the RPW and all that other stuff. I just jumped ship and came right over to RPW, which turned into NWA Upstate.
Mm-hmm. And you haven't looked back ever since.
No, not at all. I mean, when you find the proper fit when it comes to a trainer, you stick with that.
Right, absolutely. I agree with you. And I laugh when you mention all the different trainers in NMW, because Loke was my most consistent one, and I think you had I think at that time when Loke started training, you had the 3 days with him, and then you moved out of state.
Yeah, I moved back home. My mother got sick. Gabe Saint does have a heart. My mother got sick, and I moved back to North Carolina for a while. Yeah,
so, but I mean, even before that, it was a gigantic cluster of different trainings, different methods, different people saying different things. And before Loke, the only consistent really was Gary Steinmiller taking everybody's money and promising the world. So.
Oh yeah, that happened. And when I went back down to North Carolina, I trained with a guy named Blackbeard.
Okay.
Blackbeard Bobby Rogers, and weirdest black dude I've ever met besides myself. I trained with him for a couple months, and then I made my way back to Rochester. Joined up with Mike, as I said before.
All right, hang on a quick second. Did you say Blackbeard Bobby Rogers?
Yes, his name was Blackbeard Bobby Rogers out of Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
He ran this weird federation out of his backyard, which he turned into a makeshift arena. It was kind of awesome and kind of scary.
Oh, man. I wonder what White Skull Bobby Rogers up here would think of that. That's right, Mad Dog. I called you White Skull, you bald mother. Okay, I forgot. I almost broke my rule there. I love you, Mad Dog. We're Jets fans. But all right, so UPW. I mean, again, you've been there for just so long. You've wrestled so many different feuds, so many different names, and had so many different key moments. Is there any one or two in particular that stand out for you that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Matches that stand out for me. There was a stale point in the middle of my career where it was just, I was the guy who could wrestle anyone. And I pride myself on that still. I can get in the ring and I can go with anyone. My style is very malleable to other people. Like it blends very well. Mm-hmm. But there was a point where that became the staple, where they were like, oh, we don't have anything for you, so we're just going to throw you with this guy. And we sat down and we had a plan. We were like, we need to do something with Gabe Saint. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have someone put a hit on Gabe Saint. And at the time, I was a babyface. and I had several really good matches where I was winning and guys were just coming out of nowhere and trying to collect the bounty and beat me up. And in the end, the last person to try to collect the bounty was Brody Lee, thus the balcony jump.
Oh, the balcony jump. Okay, that's where that came from. Now,
the balcony jump was the culmination of my babyface fire.
Oh man, let me tell you, that was back during a time where there was and you can, being older now and somewhat wiser, you can look back at it and be like, man, that was just stupid. But there was
that's the dumbest thing I've ever done.
There was no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the war. That was, NEW and NWA and whoever the hell else was, in the mix at the time. And I did a lot of not watching. I did not watch any of the Upstate product literally until probably about 6 months after NEW folded. It was the first time I had watched Upstate product since that jump, that balcony thing. From the point I left NWA till that point with the balcony jump, and then from the balcony jump all the way until, about 5-6 months after NEW folded, that was the only thing that I saw from UPW, and I just looked at that and I'm like, oh my God. So, what was going through your head, man?
Well, to be totally honest with you, I'm a little off. Not that that's a big secret in Western New York. I'm a little crazy.
Listen, how many roads did we travel in our younger days together in my old beat-up-ass Cavalier? Who are you talking, man?
I mean, yeah, but most people they don't get a grasp of it. There's guys out there who will say, I'll put my body on the line, and they don't mean it.
Right.
But I do.
Right.
When I say I'll go out there and I'll put my body on the line for the fans, for the company, for the banner, for the brand, I mean it. And that was one of those points where I had to prove it. And luckily, it worked out in my favor. I didn't get hurt too bad. Mm-hmm. But looking back on it now, someone asked me a couple of days ago, actually, if you could do it all over again, would you? And my answer is yes, but I would jump higher.
Fair enough. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and work our way actually into, it's funny. Before I touch up on Headlocks and Home Runs 3, it's funny because the period of time that I'm talking about where I didn't watch the product, I didn't really know, but there were so many things that I was doing in my own development, and moves that I was doing that I had no idea you were doing as well. So there were a lot of comparisons, at least on my, with me, was, Gabe Saint does a frog splash, and, Gabe Saint did, and then I guess what really got me back, watching the UPW product was I was wrestling a match with Nick Vickers at Pier 6 Wrestling. And I think
Vickers.
And, we love Nick Vickers. And Coconut Jones, I guess, was in the crowd, and unbeknownst to me, I used your finisher as my setup to the frog splash. To be honest, I don't remember what move it is because I've seen you since then, and you have seriously a new move every match. But there was one move that I did. It was a double underhook, reverse unprettier, I think. And then from there, I hopped on the top and did the frog splash. Boom, and that was it. And then next thing you know, my Facebook is blowing up, and it's like, dude, you just stole Gabe Saint's finish. I'm like, what are you talking about? And that's actually what got us back in touch with each other, because I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I had no idea. And you were very. We
both at that point in time were using the Yamakasi to the frog splash finish.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it ended up that way. It just happened that way.
It was, I like to say it's kind of like it's a tale of two similar people. I mean, like I said, when I said, and I told this to Mark off the air, but when I made reference to that Cavalier and the roads we traveled, dude, we traveled some serious roads, man. And maybe that might have something to do with it. I'm not sure. Some sort of weird parallel universe.
They're similar in stature, so there's not a lot of moves out there to really use, and you got to find something that works with your stature. You got to find something that's effective and works with your stature. So at that point in time, we were almost the same size. pretty much almost the same size.
Well, you're
We
taller.
both used the frog. I'm a little bit taller, but not by much. And we both were using the Yamakaze to the frog splash finish. Some people would have saw it as coincidence. Other people tried to report it to me, and I was like, well, whatever. If it comes down to battle of moves, we'll just use them until the fans figure out who does it better.
Yeah. And I will say this: there was the OSPW show that was before the Tiger Smith taking a vacation show, and you did the frog. You did the frog splash, and I saw the look on everybody's face when you did it because you got some height, and I'm like, oh crap, I got to come out here 3 or 4 matches afterward and wrestle Eric Emanon, and I got to try and top that. I got to finish him with the frog splash. So I jumped as high as I possibly could, and literally, like, I got up there. And they said, and there were people that came up to me and said, I have no idea who did the better frog splash that night. And I'm like, good. Keep the debate going. And then, like, nobody ever debated it, so I guess you won. All right, so Headlocks and Home Runs 3, my man. You got Shark Boy. What can the fans in Perry expect from Gabe Saint versus Shark Boy?
Gabe Saint versus Shark Boy. Have you ever seen King Kong beat on a Megalodon?
Oh, yes.
That's what you can expect. I plan on maiming this man whose face I've never seen because cowards hide behind masks.
Mm-hmm.
I've been contemplating what I was going to do, if I'm going to go full bore on him, if I'm going to open up Western New York on him. Because I feel like these guys come in and, like, yeah, they got their respective spots in the world. They've been to TNA, they've been to Japan, they've done these things. And they come into Western New York expecting, like, an easy take, expecting some local guy who's going to smile in their face and ask for autographs. But you can ask any name I've worked. That's not how it goes. When you come to Western New York and you face the Bull of Black Mountain, that's exactly what you face. The Bull of Black Mountain. Not some fan, not some Mark that's looking to ask for autographs after it's all over. I want your spot. And if that means I have to break a limb or unmask you, that's what I'm going to get.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you say that because almost verbatim, Marc Hauss said that in earlier today with regards to headlocks and home runs when we were talking about that. So you see, Mark, others share the same sentiment as you. You know, with you having Brian Myers that show too.
I've just over the years have just started to adopt the mindset of Gabe Saint, and it's gotten me pretty far pretty quick because he's got the right attitude.
Yeah, I will tell you. I'll tell you this: when I wrestled Gilbert, it was a lot like that too, where Gilbert kind of came in and was like, hey, I'm longest reigning WWF light heavyweight champion, and then he stuck him in the ring with me, and I was like, F that, and just kind of went with it, and he hasn't been back since. So that's a good mentality to have, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not a betting man, but I did say that I would not bet against you based on our history, not to count Gabe Saint out. So do me a favor, if you're gonna hit him with the frog splash, man. Hit him with a frog splash.
Yeah. They have to know that. I always had this question that I wanted to ask them. When you walk in here, do you study me like I study you? Because believe me, I've been watching tapes of Shark Boy ever since I found out this was going to happen. I studied him. I broke him down. He is now predictable.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he's doing the same thing, seeing as though my pool of footage is not as big as his. So he has to know that when he walks in here, he's not like a giant amongst men.
Right.
But he's been studied. He's been focused upon. He's been obsessed over. And when Gabe Saint obsesses, people get hurt.
Yeah, he can now. Tommy Dreamer, who was at that show as well, can probably attest to that, as you've met Tommy Dreamer numerous times and have beaten Tommy Dreamer. So
I am the ECW original killer.
Mm-hmm. So now you're going to start
more ECW originals than anyone in Western New York.
All right, and now you're going to start making your way to TNA originals with Shark Boy there, huh?
Might as well.
Go. Very good, man. All right, well, I appreciate the Vine, man. Good luck on Saturday, and definitely we'll get you back on here and shoot the breeze more, catch up, and, throw some comedy out on there while we're having our scissorps. That's an inside joke that's an inside thing between me and Gabe. Scissorp.
That's right. August 2nd, Perry, New York. Gabe Saint versus Shark Boy. Come and witness extinction.
All right. Thank you very much, Gabe, for the time, man. I appreciate the call.
Thank you. Gabe
Saint, everybody, sharing the same sentiment that Marc Hauss shared earlier. And what an interview. You can't, like I said, you can't go wrong. And you talk about, Mark, you heard him say, I've studied Shark Boy. I have studied, have they studied me? I mean, realistically, no. They haven't. They probably have not studied him. But Gabe Saint, a real student of the game, going to be a great show, and we will wrap things up when we come back in a moment.
You're listening to Talking Wrestling and the Gear Radio Network. Good night now.
Upstate Pro Wrestling presents Headlocks and Homeruns 3, live Saturday, August 2nd from Perry, New York on the Perry Fireman Grounds in Perry Park. See your favorite UPW stars tangle with some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. Gabreal Saint taking on Shark Boy. Colin Delaney and Trent Beretta take on the Flex Express. Captain Nick Dando takes on Balls Mahoney. Ron Falco against Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. Cloudy issues an open challenge. Kurt Hawkins takes on Marc Hauss. The Headlocks and Homeruns Royal Rumble. A steel cage tag team match, Rochester Wrecking Crew versus Tommy Dreamer and Danny Doring. The wrestling show is from 5 to 8 p.m. There's a meet and greet at 8 to 9 and an after party right at the Fireman's Ground from 8 to 11 p.m. Be there! Welcome back to Talking Wrestling with JC Money, everybody, and I have Marc Hauss here in studio. Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot. I cannot believe that I did not mention this in the beginning of the show, but yes, you can hear us on iTunes now. We are on the iTunes. Search Talking Wrestling with JC Money. I believe you can search Gear Radio Network as well for not only just Talking Wrestling, but all the additional Gear Network programming and forthcoming Gear Radio Network programming like the Fantasy Football Talk and Beyond the Smoke, if and when we finally get that going, Perez. Yes, we will. So yes, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, GearNetwork.com, Spreaker. We're getting there. We're getting there, Mark. Mark's too busy right now. Listen, this is how busy this guy is,
I'm so sorry.
Okay? This is how busy this guy is. This is how sought out he is. He is doing business with bookers. Where you don't have to say who or what. What state?
Country.
What country?
I got 2 in Canada right now and 1 in Pennsylvania I'm working with right now.
Pennsylvania's not a country, dude.
State? You said state.
Okay.
I gave you country, and then I gave you state.
Right.
Bigger to small.
All right, bigger
I'm
to
sorry.
small.
I didn't mean to be rude.
Jesus Christ.
While we were on break, I got a conversation, and now I'm cycling between 3
See, originally I thought you were just going to be like, oh, hi, hun. Like you're hunting it up with your girl and everything.
No,
but,
book.
no, I had to understand. There's nothing wrong with that, man. I'm married, and I am very, very happy. So, but in any event, all right, well, this would be the segment that was normally reserved for Mark's Minute, but Mark's had a whole damn podcast, so I think we're just going to go ahead. We ran a little long with the interview anyways, so Maestro, if you would please. Thank you very much for that, Mark. A pleasure having you, man.
It's been fun. Hopefully you let me come back, because I can sit here and talk every week with you.
Absolutely. We can definitely make this a regular thing, but... all right, so Marc Hauss joining us here this week. Thank you very much, Gabe Saint, for the time that you had. And again, UPW Headlocks and Homeruns 3 this coming Saturday the 2nd. You should be there. I don't know that I will. Not necessarily for a wrong reason. My daughter's turning 4 that day, so... But happy birthday to you, Gianna, by the way. Daddy loves you. But you should be there, and not only should you be there, you should cheer on Marc Hauss. You should cheer on Gabe Saint. Goddamn, I can't talk anymore.
Support the locals.
Support the locals. And speaking of locals, we are, not necessarily just wanting to do locals here in Rochester and Buffalo, Western New York area. I consider you all one big local. We're looking to expand, so next week on the interview segment from New Era Wrestling and my second hometown in Cape Coral, Florida, we are going to have Romeo on the line. I'm not familiar with New Era Wrestling, as I'm sure most people are not with New New Era Wrestling here in the Western New York area, but I have a week to familiarize myself with it. I'll be asking Romeo some questions about, him and what New Era Wrestling brings to the table out there in Cape Coral. I visit Cape Coral regularly, so I wouldn't mind checking a show when I actually go there. So, but we'll talk to Romeo about that. We'll also have Marc's Minute if we don't have Marc Hauss in the studio. Who knows? A lot can happen in a week.
Absolutely.
But all right, so Marc, again, thank you. Do you wanna say any parting words?
Just come on out to Headlocks and Home Runs and keep supporting your local wrestlers and support your local podcast, because JC's got a good thing coming.
Thank you very much for that. All right, let's get into the specifics here. This is a copyrighted podcast of the Gear Radio Networks, and any rebroadcast and reproduction without the express written permission of Gear Radio Networks is strictly prohibited. The executive producer is one Mrs. Dawn Semino. Join us again next week where we will talk. Maybe we'll talk WWE. I'm not even going to say we're going to talk WWE anymore. I have no idea. If it comes, it comes. If not, we're going to talk. We'll definitely get some Headlocks and Home Runs results in there. We'll hear from Marc. We'll hear from Romeo out in New Era. This is JC Money saying so long, everybody. Good night now. Programming on the Gear Network is brought to you by the GearNetwork.com store through Amazon. Visit GearNetwork.com/Amazon and click on the banner to shop through Amazon's thousands of products. Visit GearNetwork.com/Amazon. We also have a store that is specifically related to the topics we discuss here on the Gear Radio Network. So if you like professional wrestling and sports, we have a store for that. If you like anything else, please click on the banner. Again, that is GearNetwork.com/Amazon.